Elvis Presley enters U.S. charts for the very first time with Heartbreak Hotel. Norma Jean Mortensen legally changes her name to Marilyn Monroe, and the Broadway musical My Fair Lady opens for the very first time in New York City. The year is 1956. And this was the most expensive car one could buy from a major manufacturer in 1956, the Continental Mark II, which is not a Lincoln. But before getting into all of it, I'm your host, or you could call me the presentator, Jay, but narrator. I'm so much more than a narrator. Welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel that is way more than just your typical automotive channel. We dive in deep with the history, specs, design. There's a comment section where people share their experiences and added trivia that you may or may have never known. If any of that sounds of interest to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. A couple of announcements real quick before getting into the meat and potatoes. Auburn, Cord, and Duesenberg is having a shindig out in Auburn, Indiana this weekend, which would be the August the 29th through the 31st. I will be out there Saturday the 31st. Next weekend is my favorite car show this side of the Mississippi, the Old Car Festival in the Greenfield Village out in Dearborn, Michigan, right next to the Henry Ford, September 7th and 8th. If you can go, September 7th is the best day to go because at night they light up all of the lamps and they drive the stuff around at night. It's a car experience that if you're into cars, definitely a bucket list thing, and I hope to see you at either one of those shows. If you see me, be sure to come up and say hi. 1956 Continental model lineup. But before getting into all of that, for 56 and 57, Continental would separate from Lincoln. This is what a 56 Lincoln looks like, whereas this is what the 56 Continental Mark II looks like. Two totally different cars, two separate makes. Ford did this because it felt a bit left out. All of the other big companies in Detroit, like General Motors and Chrysler Corporation, had 5 makes. General Motors with Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac. Chrysler Corporation with Plymouth, Dodge, DeSoto, Chrysler, and Imperial. Ford wanted 5 companies to go toe-to-toe with both General Motors and Chrysler. So their lineup was to be Ford, Mercury, Edsel, Lincoln, Continental at the top. But that lineup would never come to fruition. Continental only lasted 2 years as a standalone make. Edsel only lasted 3 years, but the irony is Chrysler would ditch DeSoto after 1961, going down to 4 makes. And I wonder if you ever thought of it that way. Ford had 3 makes, Chrysler would have 4, and then Chevrolet had 5. Just very interesting when you think of it. The Continental Mark II in 1956 was the most expensive car on sale in the States in 1956 from a major manufacturer, and only the rich could buy this car back in the day. It was priced competitively against Rolls-Royce and Bentley. It came in one flavor, 2-door hardtop coupe. But it's worth pointing out that there were 2 cars that were converted to convertibles later on. All options came standard on the Continental Mark II with the exception of air conditioning, which came with a $595 price tag. Designed by John Reinhardt. Standard features included, but not limited to, power steering, power brakes, power windows, with vent windows, main windows, and rear quarter windows, all powered. Power seats, full instrumentation, which included a 5,000 RPM tach, low fuel warning light, which this might be the very first car to offer that feature. The interior featured imported leather bridge of wear. The cars were hand sanded and mostly hand built. 2 coats of lacquer, which were hand sanded and hand buffed. It's believed that Ford lost over $1,000 on each car that they produced, and were willing to take the loss in return for prestige and publicity that the car would generate. Ford would become a public trading company in 1956, and that mindset would soon diminish. If one word was to describe the Continental, it would be quality. The engines were factory blueprinted. The engine was disassembled and reassembled numerous times for quality control and performance inspections. The Continental Mark II was produced at Allen Park Body and Assembly, Allen Park, Michigan. When Continental folded, the plant would produce the Edsel. Let's talk specs. 218.5 inches long, 77.5 inches wide, 56.3 inches tall. It rides a wheelbase of 126 inches. It weighs around 4,555 pounds. Price $9,966, which would be equivalent to you spending $115,246.53 in the year 2024. Total 1956 Continental production was 2,500 units. Total Continental production from 56 and 57 was 3,005 units. Around 1,500 are said to survive. The car in the video is a rare one. It was fitted with a supercharger at the dealership. To my knowledge, only 3 were done that way, making it pretty rare. Moving on to engine, only one engine on offer, 368 cubic inch displacement, Lincoln Y-Block V8, 6 liters. It's good for anywhere between 285 to 300 horsepower at 4,800 RPM. I'm not sure how much more horsepower the McCall Supercharger adds, but it's more than 300 is what our car would be rated for. Estimated 415 pound-feet or 563 newton meters at 2,400 RPM with a bore of 4 inches and a stroke of 3.7 inches. Compression is 10-to-1, 5 main bearings. When backed with a 3-speed automatic Borg-Warner turbo drive, 0 to 60 could be had in 10.6 seconds with an average 10.6 miles to the gallon with a theoretical top speed of 125 miles per hour. Special thanks to Old Car Portfolio, where this absolutely stunning Continental Mark II is currently for sale. If you're interested in a different car with an epic story, this car could be that car for you. Supercharged from the dealership when new. It is currently for sale at Motor Car Portfolio out in Magnolia, Ohio. For hours of operation, as well as directions to Motor Car Portfolio, I will link all of their information in the description. Let's talk styling on this absolutely gorgeous car. It's a work of art within itself. There's so much going on. Look at these bezels. Also notice how the headlights are Frenched or recessed inside. Just look at how far this protrudes out. Bumpers, turn signal indicators mounted inside the bumper. Beautiful grille, which comes to a point in the center. This car has overrider bars, I guess, inside the bumper itself. Just check out this bumper profile. Continental, nice and proud on the nose. Look at this center line, which goes up to the Continental hood ornament. This one does have a center line going back towards the wraparound windshield. Notice written on the windshield says supercharged at the dealership when new. This one has quite the story. This car does have pedigree. So this is the gentleman who owned this car. He was a radio broadcaster. And this is the Continental dealership warranty information. You can pause and read that if you want. Here's all the information pertaining to the Supercharger. It's all very, very interesting information that goes with this car. Man, just look at that bumper profile, so elegant. And then you have this line that comes off and it protrudes, the bottom part of the car protrudes out while the top of the car is more pressed in. That line runs the belt line of the car. Beautiful turbine wheel covers. This car does have rocker molding. But just check out all of the lines going on in that hood design. Very subtle, very elegant. Does not have an external cowl. Windshield wipers that oppose, which are connected to these little tiny pedestals at the base of the windshield. Just check out this wraparound windshield design. Very small but elegant parallelogram side mirrors. And just look at how they are attached. But just look at all of the different lines going on with this side profile. This car does have drip rails. It has like a rain dam at the front, and then the drip rails. Really elegant style roof profile. Also notice the back glass also curves. This car does have fins. So here's a better look at this fin profile. Very elegant. Also notice where the goes up there, it goes up right here in the belt line as well. The rear fenders are just kind of rolled. They're not flared. It doesn't come out. Very flat in appearance. There's also rocker molding on the rear quarter section as well. Very elegant style fins. Absolutely gorgeous taillight design with backup lights. The exhaust ports out of the bumper. Just look at that bumper design. Super elegant. Which comes to a point in the center right here. Continental badge. This is the actual spare tire hub. We'll open up the trunk and show you later that that's where the spare tire is. All of the other Lincolns after this will copy it and it'd be a fake bulge, but on this car it's a real bulge. The gas filler is actually right here. You see how that operates? Isn't that cool? And then you just unscrew this and put gas in there. But notice how this has that lip right here. That's the giveaway. Over here, it doesn't have that. It would have been cool if they made both of them open, but only the one on the driver's side actually opens. Just look at all of this that's going on. Notice the night moves out of the way. That's so cool. So just check this trunk out. Absolutely massive. Notice it's completely carpeted. Bumper jack there. Spare tire is in this case. Notice that's where the bulge is. It has a nice super low load. It's just barely past my knee. This door has a lot of heft to it. Also, look at all of the bright work when you open the door. It just makes you feel that you have something special. Alright, look at this door panel. Ashtray. Cigarette lighter for the passengers in the back. Long armrest, door handle to pull the door shut. All of the switches for all of the windows, which are power operated. The ones up here I would assume to be the vents, main windows, and the quarter windows in the back. There are also switches back here for the power seats. So this one controls up and down. This one controls forward and back. Vent windows, power vent windows. How cool! Just so you can see, it's all trimmed out here. Also notice it has a channel to connect inside the roof so it doesn't leak. How cool is that? Also notice they're tinted. The windows are. Door handle to get out. Ashtray for the driver. Coming down inside the pedal box down here. High beam switch. Brake pedal, gas pedal. Emergency brake. Just take a look at this interior. Here is what over the hood would look like. What a beautiful, beautiful sight. This is what first person over the hood would look like. What a beautiful view. On then to the button switches and knobs. 4 gauge pods sit directly in front of the driver. In the very first gauge pod, 4 gauges sit inside. Gasoline gauge at the top, oil pressure, amp meter, coolant temperature. Also the turn signal indicator, but notice it points up. 140 mile per hour speedometer. Notice that 120 and 140 have been flipped so you can see them. Odometer as well as trip odometer, high beam indicator. Clock, 5,000 RPM tach. Headlights, Drive modes read park, reverse, neutral, drive, low, vacuum pressure gauge, windshield wipers, lighter, key slash ignition, radio, volume, radio channel selector, air ventilation climate controls, left air vent, 2-speed fan blower, low is at the top, high is at the bottom with off in the center, temperature, warmer, down, defrost, de-ice, defroster, right air vent. Up above, there are sun visors with a nice cutout here for the rear view mirror, which is just a rear view mirror. Another sun visor for the passenger with the accessory mirror. Just look at this car. The seats are super comfortable. In the front, there is not an armrest. Did you ever wonder what the keys look like to a Continental Mark II? That is what the key looks like. And this is what the trunk key looks like. And this is an aluminum key. Getting in the rear, the seat folds out of the way just like that. Notice it's indented in the back here with a robe rail and or grab rail. Also, the seat is carpeted. So this is what the front looks like from the back. Let's take a quick gander at the greenhouse or the pillar to glass ratio. It's really nice in this car. It really is. This is what visibility looks like out the back from the back seat. What an awesome view from in here. Parcel shelf, pretty big. Creature comforts. There is a coat hook up there. Dome light in the center. Everything found on the driver's side is also found on the passenger side. There is an armrest, window switch for the quarter window, coat hook. The seat is a really, really nice. Oh, it's so plushy, the seat is. Notice there isn't an armrest. The seat bench is rather wide, but there is room back here for me to sit, and I have tons of space in between my knee and the back of the seat. On the positive side, timeless design, elegant, built with the finest materials, said to have great club support against it, high operation costs, high restoration costs. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. Two scenarios today. In the first scenario, would you rather have a 1956 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud or 1956 Continental Mark II or 1956 Bentley? I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to the second scenario. All of these cars have been featured on the channel, but which one would you rather have? The 1957 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham, which was the most expensive car that could be bought in the USA, and it exists because of the Continental Mark II. Cadillac wouldn't take it sitting down. Nothing could be better than Cadillac. It took the Continental Mark II's price tag and upped it by $3,000. Total price for this car was around $13,000, but it came standard with all options. Or would you rather have the Continental Mark II? Very elegant, very awesome car, understated in comparison to the Cadillac. Or would you rather have a 1957 Dual Ghia, which was kind of Chrysler's halo car, if you could even really call it that? It's an Italian-built body with a Dodge power plant, but I will say it has the nicest interior out of the three. and probably has the biggest balls too. But which one would you rather have? Going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. All right, now it's time for Name That Tune, and a little bit different today. I'm gonna sing a line, and you tell me the name of the band, song title, and what comes next. First person to do so will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. For a moment, all the world was right, but how could I know? So looking for the next line as well as song and band. First person to do that will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, shoot me a comment in the comment section below, or check out our Facebook group that correlates with this YouTube channel. It gives you the opportunity to share your rides, stories, experiences. Anything car related is shareable on there. If you'd still like to get hold of me and you don't have Facebook, send me an email at what_it's_like at a lost and mostly forgotten web provider, yahoo.com. Thank you guys so much for making the comment section a really cool section. I really enjoy reading all of the stories and insight as well as trivia. Until next time, toodaloo! Story time as the camera pans around this Continental Mark II. This story has nothing to do with this Continental Mark II, but this story was told to me by a guy that I met at the Salem Concord d'Elegance event, and it's just a killer story, and I figured that you guys would probably want to know it. It also inspires people like me that want to buy stuff like this. The price is eventually going to come down. So anyway, there's a 1937 Packard V12. It's a two-door rumble seat body. So, pretty expensive car. 10 years ago, the guy that owned the car, he passed away. And he had a really big estate. Not just this car. He had multiple cars and a house and a bunch of stuff the kids had to go through. And there was like a lot of people in the family, maybe 10 people. The kids couldn't decide on what to do with the car. So the car sat for 10 years. That car 10 years ago was like anywhere between $300 to $300, maybe $375,000. It was a pretty expensive car. So the family didn't do anything with this thing, with the car. And then they decide 10 years later, which would be about now, that they want to sell the car. And they're going to take it to RM because they figured RM could give them the most money that they could get out of that car. Put it in front of the people that would want to buy it the most. So they take it to Scottsdale, Arizona, which is like the Mecca. That's where a lot of people with money have money. And that's where they send a lot of cars because that's where the money's at. It goes across the auction block. The kids want they want at least $350,000 for this car. Those cars aren't bringing that now, but that's what they wanted. It goes across the auction block for $135,000. Didn't sell. RM has a 3 strikes you're out kind of policy. So if one family owns one vehicle, they will only take it to 3 auctions before they rid their hands of it and not sell it. So they take it to Kissimmee, and it doesn't bring anything. I think maybe $100,000 is the highest bid. So then they take it one other place, and it doesn't even draw up enough interest. RM says they're not selling it. The family begs and pleads with them to sell the car, and RM said the only way that we would sell this car is if you take it to an auction and sell it with no reserve. And they're like, well, what happens if it goes across the auction block and it only comes up for $50,000? RM's like, well, then you sold it for $50,000. The family wasn't real happy with that, but they needed the money. They needed to get rid of this car. And they figured if they had it sit around any longer, they're going to have to pay maintenance to get anything fixed that didn't work. So they took it somewhere else, and the gentleman that was telling me the story said, I bought that Packard for $75,000. And I was like, holy shit. Just because that car was worth so much money 10 years ago. And if it's $75,000 now, just imagine what it will be in 10 years. Motivation for anybody that's in this hobby that wants to buy a pre-war car or any car for that matter. and they just can't get it. There are cars that they'll never come down in price, like Bugattis, Delahaye's, Duesenbergs. There's some cars that just they'll always be expensive. But the Packards, man, they're right up there with them. And just the thought that, about 10 years, you'll be able to buy whatever you want. Enjoy the rest of the walk around. I hope you like that story.